Hello, and welcome to the Internet Safety presentation. My name is Crystal Long, and I work for the Adams County Children's Advocacy Center in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. I have two roles at the center. My primary role is I am their prevention educator, and my secondary role is I am one of their forensic interviewers. But today we are going to be learning about internet safety and how you, as parents and caregivers, can help keep your kids safe when they're using the internet. If you believe everything that you hear about kids online, you might think pedophiles and cyberbullies are around every cyber corner. Yes, there is bad stuff out there, but the truth is there's a lot of good. And some experts are arguing against a techno-panic mindset that worries parents unnecessarily. The bottom line is that we can't keep our kids safe if we don't know the facts. I'm going to share with you the 4 most popular myths about internet safety and the truths that can set your worries free, along with some information that will help you to monitor your kids' internet activities. Myth number 1, parental controls are the best way to monitor my kids' online activities. But the fact is, focusing on only one internet safety method lulls you into a false sense of security. To keep your kids safe online and to raise them to be responsible, respectful digital citizens, it takes way more than installing parental controls. For starters, parental controls can be defeated by determined kids. They also set up a parent versus kid dynamic that could actually backfire on you. Parental controls can also catch too much in their filters, rendering any internet search useless. By all means, use parental controls to help prevent exposure to age-inappropriate material and to manage time limits, but don't think they get you off the hook. Continue to discuss responsible, respectful online behavior, set rules and consequences for misbehavior, and train your kid to manage his or her own usage. Myth number 2. Teaching kids to not talk to strangers is the best way to keep them safe online. But the fact is, teaching kids to recognize predatory behavior will actually help them avoid unwelcome advances. In today's world, where kids as young as 8 are interacting with people online, they need to know the boundary between appropriate and inappropriate conversations. Kids are oftentimes pressured by their own friends or peers to talk about sex. So, they need to know it's okay to tell peers to back off. Go beyond stranger danger and teach them what kinds of questions are not okay. So for example, if they're online and a stranger is trying to talk to them, these are some questions that they should not be asking them. Are you a boy or are you a girl? Where do you live? What are you wearing? Do you want to have a private conversation? Also, teach kids to not go looking for thrills online. Risky online relationships more frequently evolve in chat rooms when teens willingly seek out or engage in sexual conversation. We're not trying to scare you, but we want you to know that many instances of child abuse, child pornography, sextortion, and other forms of child exploitation begin with unsafe or inappropriate online activities. Myth number 3. Social media alienates kids. But the fact is, most kids actually say social media strengthens their relationships. Most kids want to have fun, hang out, and socialize normally online. And in fact, according to our research, that's what the majority is doing. Check out these comforting stats. Most teens say social media has a positive effect on them. Social media is an important avenue of creative expression. And the quality of kids' online relationships has a big impact on their well-being. And how about the kids who fought cyberbullying and used the internet for a social cause or to explore an area of interest that leads to learning or possibly even their future career? More and more kids are harnessing the power of the online world and busting up a few myths along the way. The 4th and final myth is social media turns kids into cyberbullies. Fact. There are many reasons why a kid might cyberbully, and social media is just a convenient way to do the dirty work. The reality is that kids who engage in this behavior typically have something else going on that compels them to act out. So when I teach the Child Safety Matters program, as I had mentioned, I'm the prevention educator, I talk with my students about this specific topic. I ask them why they think cyberbullies bully or why bullies bully to begin with. And they tell me that they think it's because something's going on either at home or at school, or maybe someone bullied them and it makes them feel better about themselves. So they usually hit the nail right on the head. So they might be in some type of crisis at home, at school, or otherwise socially. They may also be bullying in person, or they may have an underdeveloped sense of empathy. Awareness of a cyberbully's circumstances, though not excusing the behavior, can help parents and educators recognize the warning signs and potentially intervene before it goes too far. Let's talk about cyberbullying and digital drama. So here on the screen, we have a statistic that states 1 in 4 kids will be bullied and 1 in 5 will be cyberbullied. Now, when kids misuse online or mobile technology to harass, embarrass, or bully others, they can do real and lasting harm. 60% of bullies in grades 6 through 9 have a criminal conviction by age 24. I feel like that's a fairly staggering statistic and kind of scary. Nothing crushes kids' self-confidence faster than humiliation. And just imagine a public humiliation sent instantly to everyone they know. Hurtful information posted on the internet is extremely difficult to prevent or remove, and millions of people can see it. As more and more states take a harsher stand with new cyberbullying laws, it's important to know how to stop cyberbullying in its tracks. So in my role as the prevention educator at the CAC, we use the Monique Burr Foundation curriculum called Child Safety Matters. And within that curriculum, it does address cyberbullying and bullying. And it does address how to recognize the signs, what to do for themselves, or if they see it happening to other people, such as being an upstander or a bystander in the situation, and also how to report it to a safe adult and who safe adults are and who they can choose. Now, teachers and parents can help kids think about the consequences of their online actions before they even occur. So we really want to get teachers and parents and caregivers to be really talking to students and their kids about bullying before it even happens, which is why it is so crucial for prevention education to be in the schools. And I am very grateful that the schools in the surrounding area allow me to present this material year after year and be able to teach them the importance of all of the material, but very specifically the cyberbullying. So when guiding kids, it's important for them to understand that they have a choice in all of their online relationships. They can say something positive or something mean. They can create great community support around activities or interests, or they can misuse the public nature of online communications to tear others down. And when I present my material to the students, I encourage every single one of them to say something kind or nice to somebody every single day, at least once a day before the end of the school day as I'm doing my presentation. Now on the screen here it says get involved. So we want to talk to parents of the cyberbully. We want to make sure that they're aware that it's occurring and try to engage with them on what's going on, possibly some home environmental things that might be going on. Now also it says here report or screenshot or block. So I would definitely agree with all three of those. If a child is being cyberbullied, or we know of a child being cyberbullied, whether it's yours or somebody else's, we definitely want to report it to the school first and foremost. Screenshots are absolutely a fantastic idea to have those screenshots in case that person decides to delete the content. You can certainly block that person so no additional cyberbullying continues to occur. What I would steer clear of and try to limit would be deleting the account altogether, because that makes it harder for law enforcement. So at the bottom, it states report to law enforcement if necessary. So you would obviously want to report it to the school if it's applicable regarding school iPads or technology going on that route. Now, if it's reportable to law enforcement, that is where I would recommend not deleting the child's account that's being cyberbullied, because it makes it much harder for law enforcement to complete their investigation and do their job appropriately and gather all of the information they need if that child's profile or account has been deleted. So just trying to keep that in mind when we are looking at all the aspects of the cyberbullying. Tips. Chatting about online safety. So first and foremost, we need to understand internet safety as a whole. And just as your kids are becoming more independent in the real world, they are becoming more independent in this cyber world. And the best thing that you can do is to learn more about internet safety and talk to your kid about internet safety habits regularly. And that starts with conversations early on. As soon as that child receives an iPad, or as soon as that child is getting onto your phone, if it's a toddler, we all know that sometimes that occurs where toddlers are on cell phones, playing games, those types of things. We should be talking to our kids early on so it is a normalized conversation and that it doesn't have to be so hard. We want to be open and honest. So establishing trust and asking them about their favorite websites and apps, the best way to learn is by talking to your kid about the things that they are accessing. Be supportive and listen with them with an open mind and ask them to show you how the app works. So let them teach you. It's empowering for the child to be able to show their caregiver or parent how an app works, and it also gets you and the child chatting in a positive manner. We want to involve the child in the decision-making process. This helps them take better ownership of their safety online. So as your kid gets older, adjust the rules and just be a little bit flexible when appropriate. We can use analogies, having examples that have a real-world connection. So for instance, explain that sharing the password to your online account is like giving away the key to your home, or that talking to a stranger online is just as dangerous as meeting up with a stranger on the street. And last but not least, be a role model, right? We want to follow the same rules as those you set for your kid. If meal times and bedtimes are off limits, those should be off limits for you as well. Again, being a role model and showing them, we're not just talking at them. Internet etiquette. First and foremost, we want to talk to the child and set clear guidelines for internet use. Make sure that that child is very clear on what is okay in your home and not okay. You can establish an internet use agreement, which again empowers the child. You would want to do that with your child, and that is something that I will show at the very end of the presentation, so you can learn more about that here in just a bit. Obviously, we want to monitor the child's internet use, so we don't just provide a laptop or a cell phone or some type of digital device to a child and then not monitor it in some way, shape, or form. And we'll talk about a way to monitor that with an app here just in a bit. You always want to check the privacy settings and the postings at all times. I've heard so many parents or caregivers that just hand over the device and don't check any type of privacy settings at all or have any type of parental controls, which can be really dangerous. We want to teach the child that they must never, ever, under any circumstance, provide personal information or agree to meet someone in person that they have met online. That is something that I talk very heavily about during my presentation for the Monique Burr Foundation that I mentioned before for the Child Safety Matters program. I mentioned that on multiple occasions, that you must never, ever give out your personal information online to someone you met, and you never under any circumstance meet anybody in person that you have met online, no matter what they're telling you, even if they are telling that child that they are the same age as that child, because likely they're not. And even if they are the same age, I explained to the children and the students that they're technically still strangers, so we don't meet up with people that we don't know. Make it clear to the child that they should openly discuss if someone says or does something that makes them feel uncomfortable. So we want to make sure that that your child, sees you as their safe adult, or that they have not only you as a safe adult, but can choose at least one other safe adult. So in the Monique Burr Foundation curriculum that I teach for the Child Safety Matters program, they are very big on making sure that the child chooses at least two safe adults. And they choose a safe adult that they live with and a safe adult that they do not live with. And so again, we want to make sure that the child knows that you are their safe adult, and that we role model how we react to certain situations if things are happening online that they shouldn't be happening online, and they come to you, the appropriate manner in which you handle that situation can also have a bearing and effect on whether or not they continue to come to you as their safe adult in the future if additional things arise. We want to enable safe searching options on your search engine, and we want to consider careful use of webcams, chat rooms, and instant messaging. So I would even encourage you definitely for younger children and even older children, if there are like laptops and things, that we definitely are monitoring those types of behaviors that may be happening on the webcams. I would recommend or suggest that you purchase possibly a laptop or a digital device that does not have a webcam, but 99%, if not all, of the digital devices out there nowadays, I believe, unless it's an older model, will have a webcam embedded in it. As we know, laptops, cell phones, iPads, most of them, if not all, again, have those additional additives on. And so we want to make sure that if those things are available and accessible to the child and they know how to use them, that they are either not using them at all, or you are with them and present when they are using them, such as if they're FaceTiming family or friends, or making sure that they are in a common area, not in their room with their door shut and you don't know what's going on. So we just want to be making sure that we're aware of those things that might be happening while they're on the internet. Parental controls and privacy settings. So we talk about blocking websites and filtering content. Again, making sure that those parental controls are on at all times, because that will help filter out inappropriate content that may not be age appropriate. So specifically for phones, there are tracking locations that you can install. So for phones, There is an app called Find My Kids, and it provides GPS location tracking and can provide usage statistics on Android devices so you can monitor the apps your kids are using and for how long. You can download the app from Google Play or just the App Store. So that might be something that you want to consider, and there are additional apps I've seen. I've actually seen ones where you can see an actual satellite view of where your child is located, and you can actually turn on the audio to where they are located, so you can hear their surroundings and what's going on. Now, again, that would be something you would want to talk with your kid about and make sure that they're in agreement to it as well, because you don't want to make it appear or come off as you are spying on them, because we want to, again, establish trust and try to gain some type of engaging behavior or communication between you and the child, or you and your child. There are settings in different apps that you and your child can look at together and see what you want to turn on and turn off as far as location, or things that might be shared online as far as age or additional information that you may not want other people online knowing. You can use controls and settings alongside other strategies. Now, this statistic is pretty positive. So it states more than 9 in 10 parents of children ages 5 to 15 who use parental control software consider it useful. So again, that's positive. And furthermore, it states 65% of young people aged 11 to 16 are actually in favor of the controls, which is helpful to have the child in agreement. Not that they always have to be, but it is good to have them on your side as far as agreeing to the parental controls being on the device and them knowing about it and being okay with it. Your online activity. So, ask the expert, aka your child. Trust me, your child likely knows way more about the internet and technology than you ever will, due to all the different types of devices and things that are out there as far as apps, and the fact that we are now in a digital age, especially since COVID. A lot of people have gone to using the internet for meetings and even schooling, right? We saw that happen a lot. So trust me, your child probably knows more than you think they do. You can certainly create your own social media account and follow your kid. It's completely appropriate to do so. And not only follow your kid, but follow their friends. So seeing what they're posting, seeing what kinds of things they have on their own social media accounts, or what types of things they might be sharing on their account or sharing with other people, or types of posts that their friends are posting on your child's page. Is it appropriate? Is it not appropriate? Again, having a discussion with your child on whether or not those things are okay and what you're okay with and not okay with. And again, having that conversation with your child that is occurring so they know. Again, we don't want it to be a secret. Ask for your kid's Instagram username and password, especially if they're younger, but definitely if they're older too. It's kind of twofold. Definitely, again, want to start when they're young. You can definitely monitor that activity in that way. And again, if you're asking them early on and you're having open and honest conversations with your children about these things, when the child or children get older and you're asking for information like their username and password, it won't seem so shocking or as if you're spying on them. And if you're having those really crucial conversations early on, it should limit, hopefully, some of the behavior that we know shouldn't be happening online, or inappropriate content that you might see or maybe has been shared throughout their profile. Use spot checks. So spot checks are when they're just kind of random. When you decide that you're going to take your child's device, a digital device, whether it's a cell phone or an iPad or a laptop, and just take it and go through the history, search on the things that they've been looking at. And again, if there's inappropriate things or things that you're not okay with, having a very calm, appropriate conversation with your child about the things that you may have found that you're not okay with, and finding a way and a solution to fix that problem or ensure that it doesn't occur again by having a conversation with your child, not telling your child, no, you can't ever have your computer ever again, or I'm taking your phone away from you. But these spot checks, definitely you want them to be random, where you are just randomly checking, picking a random day, a random time, they hand over the device and you go through it. And last but not least, installing a third-party monitoring app, which the next slide is going to talk about the Bark app, which is a app that is installed on your child's phone to monitor activity, and we'll talk about that here in the next slide. The Bark app and how it works. So essentially it has 4 main components. It monitors activity, it detects any inappropriate content that the child may be accessing. It then alerts you as the caregiver or parent that that inappropriate content has been searched or has been accessed in some way, and then it offers advice and suggestions on how to manage that appropriately. The premium plan for the Bark app is $14 monthly and $99 annually. For Bark Junior app is actually good for younger kids, and it's $5 monthly and $49 annually. So there are 2 different plans to choose from if you so choose to put that on your child's device. And there is a YouTube link here where you can access a short clip on how the Bark app works. And actually on the next slide, I'm going to go ahead and show you that video, but I just want to have that URL on there in case you want to try to access that yourself in the future. So as we saw there on the Bark video app on how it works, right? There are so many different great things that are in that app that can be helpful and useful. And just like it said, it doesn't replace having normal, effective conversations with your child. You don't just add the Bark app to your kid's phone and then expect everything to just be great and perfect and it's going to catch everything. It's not going to catch everything, and some, things might slip by, but we want to make sure that that is at least one way, right, to keep our kids safe by putting parental controls on your kid's phone. It's stated on there, if you remember in the very beginning, how do you monitor your kids' online activity? Do you take their phone away from them? Do you search for hours and hours to see what they've been looking at? Again, you can do those spot checks, but this is a way for you to monitor your kids' activities. And honestly, it's a great way to monitor not only like inappropriate things that might be occurring as far as them talking with strangers and things like that, but it can also help with monitoring information that might be concerning, such as suicidal ideations or depression. So there are some additional BARC app benefits, and the first one is social media monitoring. So the BARC app tracks conversations and content on Snapchat, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, GroupMe, and many, many more. And as you may or may not know, Snapchat is one of the largest apps as far as children communicating back and forth. And you may or may not know this as well about Snapchat, but once you send a snap or a message or a picture through that app, it disappears after so long. And so that would be very beneficial to have regarding your Snapchat. Text and email monitoring. So the BARC app works with iOS and Androids to monitor texts, photos, and videos for concerning interactions. As far as screen time and web filtering, that manages when your kids can access the internet and which sites are appropriate for them to visit. So it will kick them out of certain sites that they know they're not supposed to be on. And again, managing the access to the internet. 24/7 detection. So it looks for activity that may indicate online predators, adult content, sexting, cyberbullying, drug use, and suicidal thoughts, as I mentioned, and more. There's parental alerts. So you as the parent or caregiver, you get an automatic alert when the BARC detects potential issues, along with expert recommendations from child psychologists for addressing them. So as I mentioned in a previous slide, that not only does it alert and detect you, it helps you manage the concerning behavior or concerning content that you are seeing. But we cannot emphasize this enough. BARC does not get you off the hook in actively monitoring your child's internet use. This is just one of the many things that you should do to keep your kids safe. Current apps. I hesitate to even share this list with you because I created the list yesterday and it could already be out of date. That's how quickly and ever-changing the apps and the internet is nowadays. And so these are some of the apps that I listed and had found that children seem to be using and seem to be the most popular. So we have, just to name a few, the calculator one really should be talked about just a bit. That one talks about, so it looks like a calculator, just a regular calculator on the app, but really when you click into it and go into it, it's actually a hidden app to be able to hide pictures or messages or videos that but your child or someone has taken of themselves, or has messaged somebody and they want to keep it private, but it looks as though it's just the calculator app. Omegle is one where children will meet up with random strangers face to face It will match them with a random stranger somewhere in the world, and they will FaceTime right then and there live with that person. Super dangerous. The Kick app is a messenger app where you can message people back and forth. That seems to still be one kind of hanging around. Obviously, Snapchat, we talked about that. That's one of the bigger ones. It initially started, I think, as just sort of a fun app to be able to use the filters that people use on their faces and kind of fun ways. But then when people found out, or children found out, that the messages or the videos get deleted shortly after you have sent the message, and then you can't get that message back once it's been deleted, then that became very dangerous. Bumble, it's a dating app, and also Discord. Discord is one that I have been seeing on the rise. So as I mentioned, I am also one of the forensic interviewers here at the CAC in Gettysburg, and Discord seems to be a trend that is coming back interview after interview with the kids that I talk with. I still need to do some research on Discord and exactly how it works, because to my knowledge, Discord has multiple servers, which to me are different chat rooms, and you can very quickly go into a rabbit hole and not even know how you got there. And it's very inappropriate content, adult content that children should not be viewing. So the best thing that you can do is sit down with your kid and ask them to demo their apps with you. Again, get them to teach you. They know more about apps and the internet than you ever will. Then set a ground rule that they don't load any new apps to their computer or phone without your permission. And parental controls can help with this too. So if you recall earlier on in the presentation, I mentioned that you and your child can create an internet safety agreement, making sure that you are involving the child in the agreement. And these would be used, for example, in instances where you just want to set ground rules for internet safety, for internet usage, as far as time frames, what types of content that child is allowed to access or not access. So I won't go through each individual line here because you can read them, but, and this is just a sample, you can certainly create your own. You can find them all over the internet. But just to name a few would be, I will tell a parent immediately if I see anything on the internet that's threatening or scary. I will never open emails from people I don't know. I will talk with my parents and help them set up their own online rules. And so these are just some examples of things that you can certainly do with your children, but involving them, making sure you're involving them when you are doing this. If you choose to not involve your child and just do the agreement yourself and hand it over to your child and tell them this is what you're going to do, you will likely get a negative response, and your child will find a way to do it regardless if you want them to do it or not. So we really want to make sure that we're involving the child and in the agreement and letting them have a voice and a say and coming to an agreement and a conclusion, then a solution that works for both of you. So let's talk about gaming. Your child's cognitive, emotional, and social skills can be positively impacted by playing video games. And almost 3/4 of parents find video games to be a positive influence or even possibly educational. There are over 2.5 billion video gamers in the world, which is not surprising. It's a very staggering number, but not surprising. 70% of kids under the age of 18 are playing video games, and 65% of gamers play games with others. But 17% of those say they play with only online friends or strangers, which is the unsafe and scary part. We would love to see the statistic that says 0% of those they play with are online only friends or strangers, because that's where the online predators kind of go, and it really seems to be a breeding ground for the online predators, the gaming systems, the Xboxes, the PlayStations, the video games that kids play on their phones, Roblox, those kinds of things seem to be the breeding grounds for online predators, where they talk with the kids over the headsets or chat with them through the chat boxes, gain their trust, start to ask for inappropriate content. That's where the sextortion sometimes comes in, or they just want to meet up with them in person, which is also very, very dangerous. So continuing on with gaming, we have some tips for parents or caregivers. You should secure your internet connection and keep software and operating systems and browsers up to date. Furthermore, you should also keep the gaming system in a very neutral place, common place in the home, your living room, the office, somewhere open, somewhere where the child does not have a bunch of privacy and doesn't have the opportunity to be getting into conversations or inappropriate content. Or if they did, that you would be present for that because it's in a common area in the home. Use parental privacy and safety settings in the game, in the app stores, and on devices. You can check that on any of the apps or games that the child is downloading. Choose games wisely based on ESRB safety ratings and family acceptability. So the ESRB stands for the Entertainment Software Rating Board. So you've probably seen commercials where it says M for mature, etc., etc. So you want to make sure that you're choosing the correct rating for your child's age or developmentally appropriate age. Teach your child to never ever disclose personal identifiable information, also known as PII, to online users. They should definitely be using avatars, not pictures of themselves, and ensure gamer tags never include PII. So we want to encourage our children to never have their first and last names or even their first names, no identifying information as far as their age or their date of birth or where they live or the city they live in or their address or phone number. Any of those things should be an absolute negative on adding on to their gamer tag, something that would never identify who they are. Do your research, get involved, and play the game with your child. Ultimately, if you play the game with the child, you can make your own assumptions and your own decisions on whether or not that game is appropriate for your child to be playing. So this slide talks about 3 different topics that we should be talking to our children about. And the first one is online predators. So you as parents or caregivers should be talking to your children about the fact that there are people who are online who prey on kids for the sole purpose of trying to hurt them in some way, shape, or form. And that is something that I talk about during my Child Safety Matters curriculum with the students that I teach the program to in the schools. That there are people out there that claim to be someone that they're not, someone that's their age, and then they gain their trust, and then they hurt them in some way, shape, or form, or try to meet up with them in person, or could lead to our second topic, which is the sexting and the sextortion. So sometimes those online predators will ask for inappropriate pictures of that child, for them to send inappropriate pictures, or somehow try to con them into sending an inappropriate picture, and then it turns into the sextortion, where they are blackmailing them and saying things like, oh, if you don't send more pictures, I'm going to send these pictures to all of your friends or post them to social media, and everyone's going to find out about what you did. And so if that is occurring with a child, or you know of that occurring with a child, that is definitely something that has legal ramifications. So we need for children to know that if those things are happening to them online with people they don't know or people they do know, that you are their safe person and their safe adult that they can come to and talk to. And then what you would want to do as the parent or caregiver is then turn that information over to law enforcement for their investigation. And again, making sure that our children are made aware that sexting and sextortion is illegal and that we don't send inappropriate pictures of ourselves to anybody, which then leads to our third topic, which is pornography. So our children should also know that oftentimes they might receive pictures or videos of people with no clothes on or people that are half clothed. And so if your child receives a naked picture or a half naked picture of a child or a person, and they send that and forward that on to anybody, even if it's just one person, one friend, that is dissemination of pornography, which is also illegal. So what your child should be taught about that is if they receive an inappropriate picture or video or even inappropriate content of some sort from a friend or from anybody, a stranger, that they should immediately save that post or that image or whatever it is, leave it on their phone, don't delete it, keep it, show it to a safe adult, and make sure that that information is then taken to law enforcement for their investigative purposes. So as far as resources go, I have a very good comprehensive list here of some of the resources that I recommend and suggest to families or caregivers or parents to look at for information regarding internet safety. So Common Sense Media is one of them. There is quite a few different tabs on there for parents and caregivers to address different types of topics and how to address topics or hard topics or how to address conversations that you don't want to have with your kids and kind of starter conversations. NetSmarts is fantastic. So that is one of the resources that is used in the Monique Burr Foundation for the Child Safety Matters program that I teach. There are several videos for different age groups listed on the NetSmarts website, and there's also a series called Into the Cloud that is on NetSmarts, which is more for the younger group, I would say kindergarten through maybe 5th or 6th grade, about online safety and internet safety and how to use the internet appropriately regarding they have characters, cartoon characters that are on the NetSmarts website that go with the Into the Cloud series. Screenagers is a great resource for older teens or tweens as far as how to, again, address concerning topics, how to talk to your kids about hard topics, what kinds of things to say. The author or blogger on that is a mother of teens, and so she has firsthand knowledge of how to address those topics and manage them. And it also shows the impact of screen time with teenagers, hence the name. There's also the Family Online Safety Institute, of course, the Monique Burr Foundation, which I absolutely love. That is the curriculum, again, that we use in our schools in Adams County. And you can go onto that website, and there are a multitude of free trainings that anybody in the public can take. And I encourage all of you to take those trainings, and one of them is about internet safety. Of course, another really important one is Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force Program, also known as ACCAC. That is a lot of the times we will find on there about the missing and exploited children. There's information on there regarding that. And then, of course, lastly, the Center for Cyber Safety and Education. So I just encourage all of you to check out these resources as well as other resources and find out more about internet safety and how to keep your kids safe when they're using the internet. So if there are any further questions regarding anything in my presentation, you can contact me via email at clong@kidsagaincac.org or call the office number at our CAC at 717-337-9888. I would love to try to navigate this with you and answer any questions that you have. And lastly, thank you so much for taking your time to listen to my presentation about internet safety and learn about this very, very important topic on how to keep our kids safe when they're online.